Hello everyone, you're watching News Mongolia on MNB World. It's Tuesday, February the 7th. I'm Batsir Namshir. Our top stories for News Mongolia. European Union and Mongolia to strengthen partnership for the green sustainable development of Mongolia. US Undersecretary for Civilian Security, Democracy and Human Rights pays a working visit to Mongolia. Pope Francis is expected to visit Mongolia in September. For the news, stay tuned. On Tuesday, European Union, together with the government of Mongolia, organizes high-level consultation workshop on the formulation of actions for the green sustainable development of the country. As a result of this consultation, action framework for approximately 14 million euros will be developed and implemented.
European Union priority areas of partnership with Mongolia for 2021 through 2027 include green sustainable development, democracy and economic development.
Indeed, today is really an important day for us, and we are extremely happy to have the participation of really the key stakeholders of this process of green transition, of green development in Mongolia, to which the EU is fully supporting. That is one of our two key priorities for the next 7 years till 27. So we have the Minister of Environment with us, the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Education to speak about vocational training also. We have 3 advisors to the President and a lot of stakeholders, the ADB, we have also the UN, the UNDP with us, our member state. So it's really an event when we want to create links, when we really want to push ahead this green transition. That is quite of a topic where the young generation has expectation, has demands also, and in Europe, but also in Mongolia. And we want to deliver. We want to deliver together with Mongolia, also knowing that we have really a need for ownership. I was speaking in my opening address about partnership. This is something we partner with Mongolia, but also of ownership. There is a necessity of a policy dialogue, a necessity of a vision that we share together, but ultimately this is directed towards our Mongolian stakeholders. So that is important why this ownership is fulfilled.
During the high-level consultation, keynote speeches on the strategic vision of line ministries and national movements, billion tree, food security and food supply, and healthy Mongolia were presented by the related agencies and officials. The EU multi-annual indicative program for Mongolia for 2021-2027 is the partnership strategy aligned with Vision 2050 objectives and meeting the 2030 agenda on sustainable development goals. 14 million euro grant will be dedicated to the main 3 pillar sectors, including agriculture, forestry, and technical vocational education and training.
And finally, another important thing is impact. We need to have result. We need this, obviously, for the Mongolian people, but also for the European people, because this is taxpayer money. We are putting now 14 million euro of grant. This is a full grant, not a loan, to work on this green, sustainable transition. So it's also a duty for our European citizens that we have impact in Mongolia, that we help and we support for a better future and a greener future. Thank you.
Head of Cooperation from EU delegation to Mongolia introduced the presentation on EU future actions for green sustainable development of Mongolia during the workshop.
So yes, we just had a presentation on the work we're going to engage this afternoon, continue to engage on defining our support to Mongolia for sustainable development. The 3 sectors that will be heavily engaged are agriculture, forestry, the interface between the two, agroforestry, and of course the TVET sector, education sector, to have a workforce that can engage in the job opportunities that will be created with, we hope, that project. So value chain is a concept that if we look at a production, we go from the beginning, so where the product is made, could be an agricultural project or forestry, all the way to the end consumer and all the chain in between. So we have several value chains in Mongolia. The work will be to define which one are the most important to support. So it is not determined yet, it will be part of the beginning of implementation. And among value chain, we'll identify some bottlenecks, enablers to value chains, and this will be identified as well. But value chain will be selected in the forestry as well as in the agricultural sector to try to match the ambitions of the government. So there is food security, there's job creation, there's sustainability, so all that will be mixed.
Since the establishment of diplomatic relations in 1989, EU have worked closely together with Mongolia through the transition to democracy and market economy.
Pope Francis said on Sunday that he hoped to go to Mongolia in September. The trip would be the first ever visit by a pope. He made the comment during a conversation with reporters following his return from a trip to South Sudan and the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Pope Francis said that he is likely to visit Mongolia after concluding his trip to Marseille, France on September 29th. According to Reuters, the mention of Mongolia was a complete surprise to reporters. Last August, Pope Francis named the Italian Archbishop Giorgio Marengo the first cardinal based in Mongolia, where he is the Catholic Church's administrator. Mongolia has fewer than 1,500 Catholics. According to some experts, Mongolia is strategically significant to the Vatican because of its geographical location, as the Vatican is trying to improve the situation of Catholics in China. Pope Francis also said he would probably go to India next year. He is due to visit Portugal this August.
On Monday, February 6th, Minister of Foreign Affairs Pat Tsitseg met with the U.S. Undersecretary for Civilian Security, Democracy and Human Rights, Udra Zia. At the beginning of the meeting, Minister Pat Tsitseg said Mongolia greatly values the relationship it's developing with the U.S., an important third neighbor and strategic partner.
During the meeting, the parties discussed continuing high-level dialogues and cooperating on promoting freedom of speech, human rights, and fighting corruption, and cooperation within the framework of the United Nations and other international organizations. From February 5th through 8th, Undersecretary Zeya is scheduled to meet with a range of governments, civil society, and religious leaders to deepen bilateral partnerships on democracy, human rights, law enforcement, and rule of law related issues. During her visit, she will also launch a child-friendly space supporting victims of child trafficking during investigations. The space is funded by the $5.5 million US-Mongolia Child Protection Compact Partnership, ensuring trauma-informed and victim-centered practices. According to political commentators and observers, the Undersecretary's visit underscores the US commitment to supporting Mongolia's role as a democratic partner in the region and globally. On February 8th, Undersecretary Zeya will continue her Asian visit in Japan, leading a delegation launching the inaugural US-Japan Strategic Dialogue on Democratic Resilience with the Japanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
You're watching News Mongolia on MNB World. Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. According to the latest nationwide data, in 2023, 11 people died of carbon monoxide poisoning. The National Center for Social Health provided some clarification.
The National Center for Social Health collects data on poisoning and deaths triggered by carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. In the last week of January and the first week of February, according to preliminary conclusions, 11 people died from carbon monoxide poisoning from fires and smoke inhalation. 2 cases were recorded in the provinces and the rest occurred in Ulaanbaatar. Most cases were people living in detached homes and gers, and the rest were people living in shared public housing with stoves used for heating. 8 households had no smoke detectors, and the other 2 had smoke detectors that were not operational. We cannot directly confirm that the fires and carbon monoxide poisoning were caused by stove heating or heating fuel. In some cases, the electricity, power lines, and cables were damaged. We are warning citizens to be careful when heating their homes with carbon fuel and be cautious if power lines and electrical cables are damaged.
You're watching News Mongolia on MNB World. Now let's take a look at Mongolia's current affairs.
The non-resident ambassador of Mongolia to the Republic of Mozambique, Bodrum, presented his letter of credence to the President of the Republic of Mozambique, Filipe Nyusi. President Nyusi and Ambassador Bodrum discussed the two countries' relations and cooperation. Ambassador Bodrum conveyed greetings from President of Mongolia, Khurelsukh, and expressed his willingness to develop cooperation in all possible spheres. The ambassador also met with Veronika Makamo, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation of the Republic of Mozambique, and presented an invitation from Minister of Foreign Affairs of Mongolia, Patsitsek, to participate in the Women Foreign Ministers meeting, which will be held in Ulaanbaatar in June 2023. Minister Makamo accepted the invitation and tentatively confirmed her participation.
Now let's take a look at international news from our partner agencies. A powerful 7.8 magnitude earthquake hit southeast Turkey and Syria early Monday, toppling buildings and sending panicked residents pouring outside in a cold winter night. More than 3,500 people were killed in both countries. Hundreds were injured. The number is expected to grow.
Rescue workers and residents frantically searched for survivors under the rubble of crushed buildings in multiple cities on both sides of the border. In one quake-struck Turkish city, dozens pulled away chunks of concrete and twisted metal. People on the street shouted up to others inside a partially toppled apartment building, leaning dangerously. In Adana, people were scouring through rubble of collapsed buildings as the sun rose, finding personal items. The quake felt as far as Cairo, was centered north of the city of Gaziantep in an area about 90 kilometers from the Syrian border. The earthquake came as the Middle East is experiencing a snowstorm that is expected to continue until Thursday. Turkey sits on top of a major fault lines and is frequently shaken by earthquakes. Some 18,000 were killed in powerful earthquakes that hit northwest Turkey in 1999. A building in the Turkish town of Çukurova was reduced to rubble after it collapsed because of a powerful 7.8 magnitude earthquake that hit southeast Turkey and northern Syria early on Monday. Aerial footage showed the piles of rubble with mangled steel bars showing inside some of the buildings that have remained standing. Rescue workers evacuated people from other buildings that were damaged by the earthquake. The quake has toppled hundreds of buildings and killed more than 2,300 people. Hundreds were still believed to be trapped under rubble, and the toll was expected to rise as rescue workers searched mounds of wreckage in cities and towns across the area.
A spokesperson for the European Union said Monday the bloc had mobilized search and rescue teams to help Turkey, which had requested assistance from the EU in the wake of a devastating earthquake.
As part of the European Union Civil Protection Mechanism, the Commission's spokesperson said more than 10 urban search and rescue teams from a number of member states were mobilized.
Now, Turkey in this context has activated the EU Civil Protection Mechanism, and the European Union has responded immediately. We have mobilized more than 10 urban search and rescue teams from a number of member states. These are Bulgaria, Croatia, Czechia, France, Greece, the Netherlands, Poland, and Romania to support the first responders on the ground. And in addition to that, Hungary, Italy, Spain, Malta and Slovakia have also offered their assistance.
Uyvari also said that the European Union is ready to offer help to Syria through the humanitarian assistance programs. The European Commission added that the bloc's Copernicus satellite system has been activated to provide emergency mapping services. A powerful 7.8 magnitude earthquake rocked wide swaths of Turkey and Syria early Monday, toppling hundreds of buildings and killing more than 1,500 people. Hundreds were still believed to be trapped under rubble, and the toll was expected to rise as rescue workers searched mounds of wreckage in cities and towns across the area.
Now let's take a look at our regular feature on sports. The National Championship of Mongolian Swimming Masters were held last week. The competitors were divided in 7 age groups.
30 organizations or about 200 athletes participated in the Masters National Championships at the Water Sport Training Center of the capital's Bayangol district. In terms of age categories, men and women competed in the following categories: 25 to 29, 30 to 34, 35 to 39, and 40 to 44, and 45 to 49, 50 and 54, and 55 and over. It is also important to note that there are 2 categories, A for professional athletes and B for amateurs. The main organizer of the competition was established in 2022 by the Mongolian Swimming Masters Association. This competition is unique in that it is the first competition on the first national championships held by the Mongolian Swimming Masters Association. On the first day of the competition, Altnasukh Kambatar competed in the B category of the 40 to 44 age group and won 3 gold medals. There is a lot of competition and young people are very much involved. I am participating in the 40 to 44 age category and there are many very good people in our age group. The competition is very intense.
At its annual business meeting held at Wembley Stadium in London on January 18th, the International Football Association Board followed up on the recommendations made by its football and technical advisory panels from October last year.
They agreed that referees' live communication of video assistant referee or VAR related decisions will be made available to the public both in the stadium and via broadcasters, and will be trialed for 12 months in international competitions, and that it would initially be rolled out at the FIFA Club World Cup in Morocco, which began on February 1st.
We decided to make this trial because we have received some requests in that sense to make the decision taken by the referee after a VAR intervention more understandable by all the football stakeholders, namely the spectators at the stadium or at the television. So we decided to make this trial as language could be one of the issues. We thought that this Club World Cup would have been perfect because it's a multi-language competition with teams and of course spectators involved coming from all the 6 different continents. I think we will offer something I hope helpful. So my thought is definitely positive in this direction. I hope that the spectators will have a benefit from this. We are at the beginning. It's the first time we do it, so certainly it might be not perfect since the very beginning, but I'm confident that the outcome will be positive.
Chairman of the FIFA Referees Committee, Pierluigi Collina, hoped that this will make the VAR interventions more understandable for spectators, and the 62-year-old felt that such developments were definitely positive for the game.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast for the world's major cities. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you on Wednesday with more news and updates. Goodbye.